talking about tips and tricks, and I've shared quite a few on the Task Pro page. You've got a really interesting one, I think, that not many people may have necessarily thought of. So, can you tell us about your tip?
Well, my tip is the opposite of the way that we're taught at school. So if
Mhm.
you had to learn like a couple of pages of text at school, you start reading and you go from start to finish, and then you do it again, you go from start to finish, and then maybe you haven't quite got time to get all the way to the end, so you just read the start, and then you come back to it and you read the start again, you read the start again. So what you find is you really know the start very well. And we kind of do that when we try to learn a dressage test, because you might not have time to learn the whole lot, or you think, right, I know where it is up to
Yeah.
the midpoint, and then I'll learn the rest. So we constantly recap that first bit, and usually that's the bit where we're okay, or
Yeah.
we're better at that bit. But if instead of constantly going from start to finish, we thought about it in chunks, so you can sort of arbitrarily maybe put it into four chunks,
Okay.
or five, or however many you wanted, and then you learn that chunk. That's your chunk one, and then your chunk two, and chunk three. And you can test yourself. You can say, okay, what's chunk two?
Okay. Yeah.
And if you've learnt it well, you don't have to go up to one and think, well, what was one and you know what chunk two is. The same with doing chunk four. You don't have to go through the whole test. You know where it starts and where it finishes. And that's not only a great way to learn, but it means that if you have a bit of a blip during your test, you can get started again. You don't have to think, oh, what have I done already? And go through the test quickly and mentally. Oh, I'm on this bit, so I'm in chunk three, so off I go. And so it's a good recovery strategy as well.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting tip, and that's one I'm going to take on board because I definitely find myself starting from the beginning. And when I have that sort of panic on the day of the show, and I'm in the horse box and I'm listening to the audio or, going through it whilst I'm getting changed, I always start at the beginning. And
Yeah.
you're right, it's normally the middle to the end that is the issue.
Yeah.
So, and I like the fact, as you say, that if you know your different chunks, then you can piece them together if something goes wrong, like, I don't know, the horse goes on the wrong leg, and
Yeah.
you then have to regather yourself and restart, that canter circle or whatever. At least you don't have to start at A down the center line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes, thank you very much for that. I think a lot of people will find that a really interesting tip.